The first time she locked the door after we finished, I didn't pay much attention. I was lying there, still catching my breath, when she got up, quietly walked to the door, and turned the key. Then she came back as if nothing had happened. I looked at her. She smiled and pressed her body against mine as if she hadn't just locked the door. That was the night I started noticing. Her name is Adai. We've been married for only 2 months, not even 3. I met her through one of those "God told me she's the one" introductions. Quiet girl, soft voice, no drama. My name is Santo, 35 years old. I run a printing press in town. I don't talk much, and I don't like trouble. That's one of the reasons I married her. She seemed to embody peace. But that night, as I lay staring at the ceiling, something in me refused to sleep. Why lock the door afterward? Not before, not when we came in, but after, as if she was hiding something or expecting something. The second time it happened, I asked her gently, "Do you always lock the door at night?" She looked at me and said, "Why not? Are you expecting someone?" I laughed, but deep down, I was watching her. Then it became a pattern. We'd make love. She'd quietly get up, lock the door, come back to bed, and press her body against mine as if everything was normal. But last night, I noticed something. When she locked the door, she didn't just turn the key. She whispered something under her breath, like a prayer or a warning. And when she came back to bed, she didn't touch me. She just turned to the wall and said one thing in a very low voice. "You must never open that door when I'm sleeping." The room was silent, too silent. Adai was already turned away, her back to me. Her breathing was soft, steady, like someone who had settled something and moved on. But I couldn't sleep. Those words echoed in my head. "You must never open that door when I'm sleeping." Why? Why would a woman say that to her own husband? I turned on my side and stared at her back. Normally, I'd wrap my arms around her and pull her close. But that night, something stopped me. Not exactly fear, but something close. We've been married for only 2 months, and during those 2 months, everything has been calm. Too calm. Adai isn't loud or dramatic. She doesn't shout, doesn't complain, doesn't fuss. She wakes up early, makes breakfast, goes about her business quietly. No fuss. At first, I loved that. Who wouldn't? Peace of mind is worth more than a perfect body. But now, I'm starting to wonder. She never gets angry. Even when I do things that would annoy any normal woman, she smiles and says, "It's okay." That's not normal. She barely talks about her family. I've asked a few times, casually, "When am I going to meet your mother, your siblings?" She'd smile and say, "Soon. 2 months now. Nothing. I've introduced her to my family. My mother loves her. My sister, born at my house, is still watching her. But at least she's polite. But Adai? No effort, no calls, not even a 'say hi to your mom' from her. Nothing. One day, I teased her about it. "Are you planning to be an invisible wife to my family?" She laughed. "It's not like that." "So what's it like?" She looked at me for a moment, then said, "Some things take time. Let's enjoy this phase first." I let it go, but it stuck in my mind. One afternoon, I invited my mother to spend the weekend with us. I didn't tell Adai beforehand because I didn't want her to panic. When my mother arrived at the gate and called me to open it, Adai disappeared into the bedroom. I didn't even notice she'd gone in until 10 minutes later. When she finally came out, her face was calm, but her eyes were red, like she'd been crying or fighting sleep. My mother didn't notice. She was busy inspecting the house, giving little tips here and there. But that night, Adai didn't sleep. She stayed up all night, sitting on the floor by the bed, praying softly. I could hear her whispering things in a low, deep voice like an old woman. I didn't ask her anything. I just watched. The next day, after my mother left, I tried to hug her. She gently pulled away and said, "Not today." It was the first time she'd refused my touch. I didn't push. Instead, I went outside. I sat on the balcony and called my sister. "Amaka, tell me the truth. What do you think of Adai?" She was silent for a moment, then said, "She's too quiet, Santo. That girl is hiding something, but it's not my place to say. You're the one living with her." That night, I decided to try something. I waited until Adai was asleep. Her back was turned, as always. I got up on tiptoes and walked to the door, slowly reaching for the key. My hand was about to touch it when I heard her voice, cold, clear, awake. "If you turn that key, something will change in your life." The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened. She brought me tea in bed, smiled, kissed my forehead, and softly hummed a gospel song while folding clothes on the chair, as if she hadn't threatened me the night before. "If you turn that key, something will change in your life." But I hadn't slept. I sat there, watching her move around the room like a gentle breeze, and I started wondering who this woman I married really was. That afternoon, she went to take a shower. I was in the bedroom scrolling through my phone when I noticed her side of the wardrobe was slightly open. I got up innocently to close it. That's when I saw it, a small hidden drawer at the bottom. Not the kind you open by accident. It was carefully tucked behind a spare piece of fabric. I bent down and tried to open it. Locked. I touched the handle again to be sure. Locked. As I stood up, I heard the bathroom door open. Adai came out, a towel wrapped around her chest, water dripping down her neck. She stopped when she saw me. Her face didn't change, but I knew she'd seen where my eyes had landed. I tried to play it off casually. "Your drawer's locked," I said like it was just a remark. She nodded slowly. "Yes, some things are personal." I didn't say anything. She didn't shout. She didn't accuse me of snooping. She just walked past me, opened her fabric, and started applying lotion as if nothing had happened. But at that moment, something in me shifted. There were too many personal things in this marriage, too many things locked. That evening I went out with my beer and called Chique, the friend who introduced us. "Man, refresh my memory. That day you told me about Adai. You said she was your cousin's sister or a friend's cousin?" Chique laughed. "Brother, I don't remember exactly. All I know is she was renting from an aunt I know in Enugu. That aunt said she was a quiet, decent girl, that's all." I stayed silent. He asked, "Why, something wrong?" No, I lied. "Just thinking." But my head wasn't resting. That night I decided to confront Adai gently. We were in bed and I turned to her. "Baby, you know I love you, right?" She smiled. "I know, but there's something I don't understand. We've been married for 2 months. I haven't seen your family. No one's called. No one's visited. How did we even plan this wedding?" She stayed silent. Then she sighed deeply, sat up, and looked me in the eye. "You remember we had a civil wedding only? Just you, me, your family, and the pastor?" I nodded. "Yes." She looked away. "I told you back then my family didn't support my choices, that they didn't agree with the marriage, and you said you understood." I paused. "Yes, but I thought it was temporary. I thought with time, things would work out." She shook her head. "It's not that simple, Santo. My family, my past, it's not normal. That's why I begged you to keep it private. You agreed. Or did you forget?" I didn't know what to say. Maybe I'd forgotten, or maybe I'd ignored it because I desperately wanted peace. A gentle wife, a quiet home. I looked at her. She stared at the wall, then said something that tightened my chest. "If they ever find out I'm married, I don't know what they'll do to me." That night I couldn't sleep, not because the room was hot or noisy, but because of what Adai had said. "If they ever find out I'm married, I don't know what they'll do to me." Who are they? Why is she acting like she's on the run? I tossed and turned. I looked at her, then stared at the ceiling. She slept peacefully, her back turned as always. At some point I dozed off. Then I woke up around 3:37 a.m. needing to pee. My bladder wasn't screaming yet, but I knew if I ignored it, it'd wake me up harder later. I got out of bed slowly so as not to disturb her and headed to the bathroom. The hallway was dark and quiet. Even the small fridge in the living room had stopped humming. On my way back, something made me stop by the door. Voices. Not two. Just one. Adai's voice. I moved closer. She was talking in her sleep, softly, muffled but steady. I tiptoed back in, stood by the bed, and listened. She was speaking in Igbo. I froze. Adai never speaks Igbo when we're alone. Never. She says she's not comfortable with the language, that she understands it but struggles to speak it. Even when my mother visits, she always responds in English. But that night, in her sleep, the same woman was speaking clearly, like someone who'd spoken it her whole life. I didn't catch everything, but the tone was enough. She wasn't begging. She was pleading, like someone warning of danger. I leaned closer. Then I heard something that made the hairs on my neck stand up. Santo must not open it. He must not open it, or they'll find us faster. Open what? The drawer or something else? She stirred in bed, her hand reaching out like she was searching for something. Then she spoke again. Even if I didn't fully understand the words, I knew what it meant. If he opens it, it'll end badly. My legs suddenly felt weak. This wasn't about a normal marriage problem anymore. This wasn't a mood swing. This wasn't shyness. My wife was carrying something I wasn't part of, and it was starting to reveal itself slowly. She mumbled one last thing and went quiet. I waited. No more sound. I stepped back from the bed softly and sat in the armchair across the room. I didn't even want to lie next to her anymore. That night, sleep vanished completely. I watched her until morning, but just before the sky started to lighten, she stirred, slowly opened her eyes and looked straight at me, as if she already knew I was watching. She didn't smile, didn't speak, just stared. Then she said calmly, like we were talking about the weather, "Did you touch anything while I was sleeping?" That was the first thing Adai said as the sky began to lighten. Not, "Good morning." Not, "Did you sleep well?" Just that question, calm but sharp, like a knife wrapped in velvet. I swallowed. No. She stared at me a few seconds longer, then turned away like that was enough. But it wasn't, because even though I said no, the real answer was yes. I hadn't touched anything that night, but I had touched the drawer 2 nights before. She hadn't asked me then. She was asking now, like something had changed, like someone had told her. That morning I went outside with a troubled mind. I sat at the small plastic table in the yard, drinking gari and peanuts. I needed to think, to sort my thoughts, to breathe. That's when I noticed the woman. She was standing at the gate, not knocking, not speaking, just standing there, staring at the house. She wore a faded wrapper tied loosely around her chest, and her head was bare. Her skin was dark, scorched by years under the sun. But it was her eyes that struck me. They didn't just look. They searched like she was trying to see through the walls, into the rooms, into the people living here. I stood up slowly. "Good morning, Ma," I called. No response. She didn't blink, didn't move, just kept staring at the house. I took a step forward. "Are you looking for someone?" Still nothing. I glanced back at the house. The living room curtain moved. I turned my head and saw Adai peering through, one eye visible. As soon as she saw the woman, her whole body stiffened. Then slowly, she let the curtain fall and disappeared from view. I went inside. "Who's that?" I said as I entered the living room. "Do you know that woman outside?" She was standing in the middle of the room, her hands trembling, not visibly, but enough for someone watching closely to notice. "Me? Don't talk to her," she said quickly. "Who is she?" Adai didn't answer. She walked to the window, peeked out, then stepped back. "If she asks you anything," she whispered, "just say you don't know me." I blinked. "Sorry? Do you hear yourself?" She turned to me. "I'm serious, Santo. Whatever happens, just say you don't know me." Then she walked past me and locked the bedroom door behind her. For a moment I stood there, stuck between the last 2 months and what I just heard. I went back outside. The woman was gone. No sound, no trace, not even a footprint. just heavy air, like something had passed through. Then my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. She's not who you think she is, and if you value your life, stop asking questions. I reread it. She's not who you think she is, and if you value your life, stop asking questions. No name, no emojis, just a threat disguised as advice. I looked around. Nothing. No one. The street was still quiet, with the hum of generators in the distance and the morning sun trying to break through. I deleted the message, not out of fear, but because I didn't know what to do with it. Inside the house, Ade acted like nothing had happened. She cooked a goosey and egg sauce. She swept. She even folded my clothes neatly on the bed. But one thing was off. She didn't mention the woman once. She didn't ask if I'd seen her again. She didn't ask if the woman had said anything. She didn't even ask if I was okay. That silence said more than any explanation. After lunch, I sat and watched her move. She wasn't restless, but she wasn't fully at peace either. Like someone waiting for a knock at the door they hope never comes. So I decided to test her. "Baby," I said softly. "My mom's asking when we'll visit her in AA. I was thinking we could travel this weekend, spend some time with her. Just a couple of days." She froze for a second, just one, but I noticed. Then she turned and smiled. "Oh, that's nice, but baby, this weekend's too soon." I leaned forward. "Too soon? It's been 2 months since we got married." "I know," she said, looking down at her hands, "but things are still fresh. Let's take some time first. Maybe later." I nodded slowly. "Okay." She opened her mouth, then closed it. Then she smiled again. "I'll know when the time is right." That was the second red flag of the day. I didn't push. But later that evening, when she was in the kitchen, I picked up her phone from the couch. I just wanted to check something. Not messages, just basic settings. Something was nagging at me. I scrolled to About Phone. That's when I saw it. Device name, Adobina. Obina, not my surname. Not a name she'd ever mentioned to me. I froze. Then I opened her gallery. Most of the photos were of the house, us. But I scrolled to the bottom, and there it was. A blurry, old, but clear enough photo. Ade standing next to a man. Not me. He looked older, darker, taller, with a beard and tribal marks. She was smiling in the photo, a kind of smile she'd never given me. Behind them a sign, Obina Heroes Clinic, 1986. I stared at the image like it would speak. Then I heard footsteps in the hallway. I quickly put the phone down, sat back, and grabbed the remote. Ade walked in, wiping her hands with a towel. She looked at me, then at her phone, then at me again and smiled. A small, tight smile. "You've been busy," she said. I forced a smile too. "Just flipping channels." She nodded. But at that moment we both knew what had happened. She knew I'd seen something. I knew she knew. And she knew I wasn't going to stop digging now. That night we didn't talk much. Ade sat next to me on the couch pretending to scroll through her phone. I held the remote like I was watching the news, but we were both pretending. Silence in a marriage is a strange thing. Sometimes it's peace. Other times it's war wearing perfume. The next morning Ade got dressed as usual. An elegant dress, her hair neatly tied, a bit of powder on her face. She kissed my cheek and said, "I'm going to work." I nodded, watched her leave. Then I waited 5 minutes and followed her. It wasn't a spy mission. I just wanted to understand who I'd married. That name I'd seen on her phone, Obina, and that Heroes Clinic sign hadn't left my mind since the day before. If she could hide that, what else was she hiding? Ade had told me she worked at a small accounting firm on Akina Street. She always left at 8 a.m., returned at 4:30 p.m. I'd never checked. I trusted her. Not today. I followed her on my bike at a safe distance in my car, watched her turn into Akina Street and enter a small brown building. From the outside, the place looked legit. Maranatha Consults. I waited. 15 minutes later, I went in. The receptionist smiled, a young girl chewing gum and scrolling through Instagram. "Good morning," I said. "I'm looking for Ade. She works here." The girl stopped, looked at me, then frowned. Adai? Yes, I said. She blinked, then turned to another woman sitting nearby. Auntie, do we have an Adai working here? The woman shook her head slowly. No Adai here. Are you sure it's this office? I forced a small laugh. Yeah, maybe I got it wrong. I walked out slowly, my heart pounding. If she didn't work there, where had she been going for 2 months? I waited in my car, hidden behind a large delivery truck, watching the building. At 10:43 a.m., Adai came out through the brown gate, but she wasn't alone. She was talking to someone, an older woman, tall, with a slight limp. The woman held a small calabash in her left hand. Adai gave her something in a black plastic bag, whispered something, then quickly looked around like someone watching for danger. I ducked immediately. My hands were shaking. She left. The woman crossed the street and entered another compound. Not the brown office building, but a green-painted bungalow with no sign. So that was it. She was lying every day. By noon, I left and went straight to Cheek's office. He was surprised to see me. You show up like a ghost, he laughed. What's up? I didn't waste time. Cheek, I said calmly, are you sure you knew her well before you introduced her to me? He raised his eyebrows. I told you. I didn't know her deeply. I just heard good things about her. From who? An aunt in Enugu who owned the compound where she was staying. She said the girl was quiet, always praying. I even heard she helped some women with midnight matters, you know? Those spiritual things. I froze. What do you mean? Midnight matters. He shrugged. You know, deliverance, fasting, healing, womb touching, a bit of tradition, a bit of prayer, that kind of thing. I felt like throwing up. I stood up and left his office. That evening when I got home, Adai was already there, sitting quietly on the bed, wiping her feet with a white cloth. I walked in, said nothing. She didn't look at me either, but just as I was about to leave the room, she said softly, You went to my office today? I stopped, turned around. She was still staring at her feet, still wiping them. Then she added, even softer, I hope you didn't follow me to the other place. That's what she said. Soft voice, calm tone, but the meaning was heavy. I didn't answer. I stood there for a few seconds, then left the room. My chest was burning, but I stayed quiet for now. Later that evening, she made okra soup with pounded yam. I don't even know how I finished the meal. My head was full, my heart was confused, but my stomach didn't speak English. After dinner, she offered, sat on the bed, and started singing worship songs softly. I didn't join in. I watched her instead. When she finished, she lay on her side and fell asleep like everything was normal, like there was nothing to discuss. Around 2:15 a.m., I woke up to use the bathroom. This bladder thing was starting to feel spiritual. As I came back to the bedroom, I noticed something strange. There was light inside, a candlelight. I stopped at the door. The bedroom bulb was off, but I could see through the crack under the door that something was flickering inside. Orange, unsteady. I turned the handle, locked again. She'd locked the door from the inside. I knocked softly. Adai. No response. I knocked again. Adai, you okay? Still no response. Then slowly I heard something humming, soft, deep, like a lullaby from another century. Then a whisper, not a prayer, just a murmur, like she was talking to something or someone. After nearly 5 minutes, the door clicked open. She stood there, her hair loose, eyes dull, skin pale like she hadn't seen light in weeks. But what shocked me wasn't her face. It was the candle behind her. It was tall, black, and burning with a strange blue flame. No draft was blowing, but the flame danced wildly like it was reacting to something. I tried to speak, but the words got stuck. She smiled faintly. Sorry. I didn't know you'd wake up. I nodded slowly. Why the candle? She stepped aside and went back to the bed, sitting next to the flame like it was her pet. It's just a personal childhood habit. It helps me sleep. Since when? I asked. She looked at me for a long time, tired, like someone who'd told too many lies and couldn't keep up. "Forever," she said. "You just never noticed." I glanced at the candle again, then at her. Something was wrong. That thing wasn't a sleep candle. I knew it. She knew I knew, but she wouldn't say it. And I was too scared to push. We went back to bed after that, but I didn't sleep. Not even a blink. Because that blue flame refused to go out. And in the morning, the wax was gone. But the floor where the candle had been was burned. A perfect circle, dark, black, and dry on our tiles. No wax, no smell, no ash, just a mark. And beneath it, scratched into the tile like something had clawed it from below.